And good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. John Michael Salvato. With me is Reverend Robert Brzezinski and our guest today, Katrina Roche. And today on Inner Alchemy, we are doing a special request as we start the month of September. A couple people said, "Hey, John Michael, it would be fantastic if you could help those of us who maybe don't come from a religious background, who maybe don't come from a background where some of the terminology that we see in the blog, that we see on your Facebook posts, really mean anything to us. But we still have this sense that spiritual mind treatment works, or affirmative prayer, or however you want to call it. And so I thought I'd start off, and I'm just going to speak very briefly today because graciously Robert has offered to do the heavy lifting, as the truth be known, he does on every one of these shows. So, but I'm going to just sort of just give you a little bit of my insight on that to answer your direct questions, and then Robert, I think, will expand on this. And I want you to understand this is a very simple concept. Spiritual mind treatment is a method based on our understanding that there's a universal creative energy that's the source of all of life. Now, it doesn't matter what you call it. You could call it God or love or oneness or spirit or goddess or creative intelligence or thought, 0 point energy. That when we interact with this energy through our thoughts and our beliefs, with affirmative prayer, we consciously choose the thoughts that create what we call the causes and conditions, the stuff, if you will, to manifest that what we want to experience in our lives. If you wanted to create a table, you would bring together the causes and conditions of a table. You would gather the wood, you'd gather the nails or the pegs if you weren't going to use nails, you'd gather the glue if you needed glue, the stain, the varnish, the tools to be able to cut the wood, and then you would create that table. Well, this method that we use is much the same way. We consciously choose the thoughts that create what we want to experience in our lives in the simplest of terms. And so it's a very simple system. I'm going to recommend that when I share this, you guys put this in your notes and leave space on your paper so that as Robert expands on this, you'll start to have some aha moments. You'll start to maybe something will click in your mind that'll be your terminology to make this real for you. That's the beginning of manifestation of actually embracing this method. So put down step one, and like I said, after I share a little bit with you, just go ahead and give yourself some space so that when Robert shares, all of your aha moments can be jotted down in there, and then maybe watch this again when you can be completely undistracted. Step one is just recognizing that there's a source of all energy, as I said, that manifests as all that there is. Now, some, like I said, will call this source dark matter or 0 point. Others imagine it as God or goddess. Some have particular names for that source energy: Yahweh, Shiva, Kali. Some call it spirit or light. Others see it as thought or pure awareness. It doesn't matter what name you choose for it. Step one is just recognizing the truth of its existence. And then step two, right hand in hand with that, is recognizing that you and I are part of that source, and that source, and that we're part of all that source is. So it's a recognition of singularity. I am part of the source of all creation, and therefore I am part of all creation. There is no you and me. There's only that us, that one substance, what I like to call pure awareness personally. Step three is that we move ourselves to align with the highest good in our lives. We bring our focus, we shift our focus as we do every day on the mind shift calls to accept that the gift of love, the gift of peace and health are right here, right now, manifesting in our lives, despite appearances to the contrary. That we recognize that grace and ease and abundance are our birthright, and that they're our natural state of being. And so that anything that appears other than that, dis-ease, is simply a thought that we have that needs to be let go of, a thought that we have that needs to be healed, corrected, if you would. We're a little off course, we come back to course, and we recognize ease is my natural state of being. Step four is knowing that the good that we're trying to manifest, that we're affirming, is already given from the infinite source of all. That there was no need to begin with. That's ease and health and abundance and joy is already there, already manifesting in our lives. And so because of that, we give thanks that there was no need, that our needs were addressed before we even recognized them or thought that they existed. And step 5 is to release that declaration or prayer, however you choose to see a mind treatment, that treatment into the perfect workings of universal law, and to relax and know that it's done. So I think that's the simplest way that I could put it, and I probably did that in a little bit of a crude way. So what I would really like to have happen is now to let Robert take those 5 steps and share a little more deeply. So where those 5 steps are. That's why I said leave some space, so you guys can now maybe flesh them out a little bit more, maybe discover a little more what that means, or have an aha moment that says, oh yeah, I understand why they say, and so it is. I understand why they say, and I give thanks for this word, and so on. So Robert, go ahead and take it away, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, John Michael. And I don't want to say thank you to you for giving us such wonderful opportunities to pray in the last week and so. And you did. You relied on this technology to support you in the emotional and mental realms, and therefore the spiritual realms, as you went through this experience you went through with the doctors and the hospitals and all that stuff. And what I know is that continues. And so you have been in not only in my prayer work, but in my book and in my thoughts and in my family and in my requests throughout this entire week. And really, this is the important part. This is the reason behind it all. To feel, for me, to feel that I am being a beneficial presence on the planet. That the power out there that I can direct and that I have command of, if you will, can be used to support not only my own life, but the lives of all those I care about, all those around me, and now then, therefore, all of humanity. So this really is a very, very simple practice. Well, let's say it's easy, but it's not simple. Because the power of our word has such the amazing capability of becoming actual experience or actual form in our lives. And so what I hope to give everyone today, what I trust I'll give everyone today, is a little bit more on the technique. And you did a great job there, John Michael, of describing the technique, a series of steps, and how this is built on a basis of logic, moving from one step to another step. And there is also the fire, the passion. There is that piece within that is lit up and just has to express. And we'll give you an example of that a little bit later. So we have a technique and we have a fire. We have a both-and combination. Very logical in our brain how these pieces fit together, and very heart-centered in how we present them. That's the unique part, because I can teach you the technique and no one can teach us the fire. That's something we have to develop ourselves. Now, one of the ways I do that is I keep myself focused on my language. And if we had our whiteboard up here today, I would write on there, your definitions are your law or your Lord. The definitions you hold about a word. I had a conversation earlier this morning with a student. How often do we go back and read some of these older texts that are out there in the world in New Thought? And what you really need is a dictionary to read them. Not because of the words they use, but because I have to know how they defined that word at that time. The word gay is a specific example and probably one of the easiest. The definition of that 3-letter combination has changed over time. And if I'm reading a book from the 1800s that uses that word, I get a different interpretation, so on and so forth. So,
yeah, Ernest Holmes said in several of his mind treatments that our natural nature was gay. I teased people all the time and said, "See, you guys are the ones that are off."
Exactly. So, so why can't we all get along together, right? Exactly. So the words we use have real power. How we put them out into the world is what makes a difference. What I teach, what the Science of Mind teaches, is let's speak in the first person. Let's speak from that I perspective, my experience, what I know as true. Let's speak in the present tense, what's happening right now, not what I hope might happen in the future, not what I'm worried about happened in the past, but what's happening right now in the moment, and then always finding positive language, finding the way to phrase our words in what we do want, what we do know, rather than what we don't want or what we don't know. If you're taking notes, I want to give you those 5 steps that John Michael spoke of a little earlier again, and in a what I trust is an easy way to remember. Before anything, we need a purpose. We need a purpose that says, this is what I would like to desire. I desire more love in my life. I desire more meaning in my life. I desire more abundance in my life. I desire more light or more love or more beauty, a better relationship. I just want a really good job. But let's get clear on what it is we desire. From there, we step into the actual 5 steps of treatment, and number 1 is a recognition. It is the recognition of that allness, that power, presence, and intelligence. Now, yes, we've got about 1 million different labels for it. In Ernest Holmes' book, The Science of Mind, in just that one book, he uses over 165 different words to try to describe this thing that is beyond description. Everything from God to spirit. John Michael mentioned many of them earlier. Buddha, Allah, Yahweh, Vishnu, Kuan Yin, Source Energy, Divine One, Mother, Father, Earth, Gaia, we use the energy, the force. We use so many terms across our culture to describe this thing that I really don't care what words you use. But I do care that you use the labels that mean something to you. And the important part is what we're really doing is recognizing the totality of it all as one thing. So an easy way to remember this, first step is God as. Whatever your definition of God, God as. Well, what would we want, or life as, energy as, the universe as? What would we want that to be? I want my God to be a God that expresses as love, as the relationship that I seek, as the partnership that I desire, as the sense of beauty that I want more of in my life. Sounds like what I wrote in my purpose statement, actually. So in a lot of ways, I tie in my desire to what I am knowing God to express as. Now, you can stay here for a couple of sentences, or you can stay here for a couple of hours. That's up to you. The process is getting yourself to that place where you can fully and 100% recognize that there could be nothing outside of God, nothing outside of my concept. If you're in the AA philosophy, you would recognize this as part of that 3rd step, right? God as I can embody it, as I can recognize it now, as I know it now. That'll change as you go. But for now, let's recognize this power as the totality of everything. From there, so if life as beauty, love, abundance, well then I know that I must be a part of that. There's really no way I could be outside of it. We've just established a deep conviction in our own mind that there's nothing beyond the one. How could it be anything? How could I not be part of that? Here's our logic piece again. How could I not be a part of that? And so if my life is expressing itself perfectly, and I define perfectly as whole, complete, nothing missing. If my life is expressing perfectly, well then that must be true of all life. Must be true of John Michael's life, Katrina's life, must be true of the lives of everyone that listens to this recording at any point in time throughout the future or the history or the time of that is beyond time. All of that is all still one. Each one part of the larger one. And therefore, God, the big one, would not be complete without me, would not be complete without your experience, without your expression, without the divine gifts that you can bring, and only you can bring. So here I am, life as I am. Well, I want. And here's what I want. And here's where we move. That second step of knowing our unification with God transfers into the third step of the realization. I imagine most people listening to this are familiar with affirmations. Affirmations are the bread and butter of our realization, our third step in this. They are a positive, and again, we fall back on our language, first person, present tense, positive languaging, and I fall back into that, and I claim and I state what I know is true, even if it's not showing up in my life right now. This is that place where I kind of get to make it up a little bit. Because if I really am in a place of knowing this power as all love and really knowing that I am a part of that and knowing that I want more love in my life, then I also can logically know there's nothing that can hold back that love. And so that love is a truth of my life right now. And I am coming into the recognition of that truth. I'm opening my eyes to see that truth as my truth now. So life as I am part of that. I know what's going on and I know what I want, and this is what I'm claiming for me. And when I get to that place of really, again, feeling that truth, well, then there's nothing left to do but be grateful, to be thankful. And we move into that fourth step of thanksgiving and saying thank you. Now, I'm not saying thank you to some power out there, right? I'm not saying thank you, God, for blessing me. No, 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 no. I'm saying thank you for this revelation of truth. Thank you for the fact that I am now finally awake to receive and see and accept everything I've just said, to accept that as the truth of this power, presence, and intelligence expressing through and as my life, through and as all life. I build from that gratitude, and I realize that this is complete. There is nothing more to be said, or nothing, more importantly, nothing more to be known right in this moment. And so this is an act of surrender. We call it the release step. And what we really do is we send that word, we cast that word out into the law. Ooh, I don't know what that sound was, but that fitted really nicely. I hope that shows up. I'd love to do that on purpose someday. Because the law is probably the most misunderstood aspect of this whole thing. And I like to think of it is love points the way and the law makes the way possible. The law, with a capital L, is simply the manifestation of the power, presence, and expression and intelligence. It is the process by which everything must come into form. And much like our power, presence, and intelligence could not be biased towards you or me or respect either of us more than the other, the law can really only say yes to whatever word we cast into it. And so I kind of think of the law a little bit like the very end of Harry Potter's wand. Because Harry's got an idea in his head, and he's got this vehicle by which to send his word out into the world. We call that wand treatment. But at the very end, once he lets that word loose, once he casts that spell, and the sparks start to fly off the end of the wand, the energy, the power moves off the end of the wand, there's nothing he can do to change it. At that point, the spell is cast, the word has been released, and it will return, and it will absolutely, guaranteed, must bring us an experience of that word. And that's a whole nother lecture as to how it gets out there and what we put into it. But for now, remember, if we're sending out that first person, positive tense, positive language, if we're moving through a process of knowing that there's one power, that power operates as my life, as all life, and so out of that power, I claim an experience of absolute knowing, of absolute truth, of a deep knowing of the absolute health and the vitality of this dear soul that sits before me that I call John Michael. And I stand in that place of knowing that there is nothing wrong with his body temple, that everything is happening according to a divine plan, that everything is happening in a divine way to bring John Michael to a deeper sense of the divinity of his own life, to a deeper sense of wholeness and the oneness that he expresses and that he alone can express. Well, that word has power. I know that word has power. And for that, I am grateful for the reminder of this truth, for the opportunity to speak this word, and to know that God's already got this word, and so I release it into the law, knowing there's nothing I need to do, say, be, or become in order to experience this word, but let God be God. And so it is.
So it is. You know, I want to first of all thank you for that, and thank you for that treatment in the end, and to kind of address the fact that when we do this, that it's not just about. I love the Harry Potter analogy, because at the end of every wand there is some sort of crystal, and crystals both record energy and also can transmit energy, and so it's that focusing, it's that intensification that word goes through, which we call the law, and it goes through that lens of amplification, and that lens that has recorded truth since time immemorial, and that is what helps us to bring about that greater manifestation. Well, the other thing that happens when you do this sort of treatment, and for me, it meant beginning to do treatment, in the hours, the foggy-minded hours that followed them implanting the stents in my chest, and greater awarenesses immediately begin to emerge. When we manifest in our lives, a heart attack, quote unquote, a broken heart. When we manifest clogged arteries, so that lifeblood, that oxygen is not flowing in our lives, and we have to ask ourselves, what is it that's bogging down my heart? What is it that's what are those blood clots that are not letting the oxygen, the life, the abundance flow? And I might not have fully recognized what the answer was on Tuesday morning, although I was getting very close to it, because I knew that by Friday, I said on Tuesday night before I went to bed, Friday night we are going to the hospital and getting to the bottom of this, and between now and Friday I have spiritual mind treatment to do, because this does not feel right. There is an event taking place in my life, and I got to let it go. And so I'm not coming to bed right now. I'm going to sit and work on this from my end. And so Craig went to bed. I got in bed he went to bed around 10. I got in bed around 1 o'clock in the morning, and was pretty clear what those issues were. I would say I was very clear. But I went to bed. He got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to pee. I decided I should be kind and go do the same thing, so that I don't wake him back up a few hours before he has to go to school. When I got back in bed, the culmination of all of those things that I was not letting go of, because it doesn't do us enough good in life to recognize, yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, that's something I need to let go of. That's funny, but they're still there, and you haven't let go of them, and you lay down, and all of a sudden it felt like my heart was going to explode. And I think possibly that it felt like my heart was going to explode because now they were revealed to the light of day. Mm-hmm. Now they were named, and they were recognized. And I sat up, and I put on my jean shorts, and I put on a pullover, and said, Craig, you got to take me to the hospital now. And he said, why are the pains getting worse? And I said, no, I'm having a massive heart attack right now, and we need to get there. And this, I've never felt this way in my life. But I recognize as a physician what's happening inside. Got to the hospital. The doctors gave me the medication. Yes, it was a massive heart attack. They did the EKG and they did the blood work and all that. And then a second massive heart attack began. And that massive heart attack um, was for me um, the opportunity to do two things in a big fucking hurry. One was to let Craig know how much I love him and appreciate him, and how much he's meant to me in my life. And not that I don't do that on a daily basis, but there needed to be a bold declaration of that, and probably because we've been putting off the marriage, and then there needed to be a sending out of love and forgiveness to everyone in my life, because this issue, this heart attack, was brought about by bitterness, by holding on to baggage that wasn't even my own, and letting it clog up the flow of life. And then, of course, that forgiveness really was just a call to look at myself and forgive myself for not having let go of those things in the moment when they happened, and taken 100% responsibility. And so the broken heart was that I was allowing things to hurt me when I knew better, and I was beating myself up for it. And I was physically breaking my heart. And so I didn't know if I was going to get all of those things out fast enough. I got into the operating room. The doctor said, "Hey, we usually go in through the groin. There's not enough time here. We're going to lose you. I'm going in through your arm. Will you sign a paper?" I signed a paper, and he said, "Oh, you're." They saw my signature. He said, "Oh, you're a physician." and we giggled, and I said, "Do what you got to do. You got my permission no matter what, because the outcome is going to be perfect here." And he said, "Well, I can't promise you that we're going to be successful here." And I said, "I can promise you that you're going to be successful. I might not live, but you're going to be successful." And he said, "Do you want to watch on the screen?" And I said, "No, I got my work to do. You got yours to do." And we both went to work. And it was that experience. Sometimes some of us are too slow, too stupid, too whatever, too stubborn, that life has to smack us in the head with these dramatic, life-changing events. And the work's not done, because I clearly still have a 72% blockage on the other side, and I am working this week on releasing those things. And every single day, the amazing thing is, some of those people who represent the blockages pop up in my life, push my buttons, and I catch myself raising my voice. And as soon as I raise my voice, I write their name on a piece of paper and say, here's somebody I have to forgive myself for whatever. I leave ... When that conversation's done, because it's not their issue, it's mine, when the conversation's done, I say, okay, what is it about this person that I need to forgive myself for? What am I holding on to? And I let go of that piece of baggage. And what it's done for me is this last 5 days, 6 days since since I've been home, has been a time of healing so many relationships of people that I really care about, but people who had a tendency to push my buttons. And why? Because they were reflecting to me at rapid speed the shit I needed to get rid of to move into a more beautiful and abundant and richer, fuller experience in myself. So guys, we do this treatment not for fixing other people, not for fixing ourselves. We do this, as Robert said, for coming to the greater realization of ourselves. And that's why we say thank you. We say thank you because we were locked in a prison, and the key was in our back pocket all along. And we're thanking ourselves for taking that key out and finally using it. So I hope that this has been helpful for you guys. Robert, I so appreciated the way that you expanded upon this, and certainly made it clearer for all of us. Katrina, anything that you want to ask or add or say as you're sitting here joining us today?
Well, nothing comes to mind to add. It's a very complete conversation. But I've gotten a lot more clarity, just on, I mean, I understand how this works, but hearing it verbalized just gives more clarity to me and to my understanding. So I thank you for that. And it, of course, allows me to be able to work with it in, in even a more intentional way, a more conscious way of what it is that I kind of intuitively understand. It's kind of the alchemical process of creating our lives,
Hmm.
and we are expressions of that vast isness, the existence that is everything. And as such, as I also do my work to release those things, those relationships, those places where my energy is stuck, where perhaps I'm feeling reactive and challenged, then that beauty of the truth of my being that is connected to the all can flow through me to make a greater difference in the world and for myself and for the people around me, for everybody that I come in contact with. So I'm just grateful to be here and be part of the conversation today.
Well, we're grateful to have you. Sorry, my voice is now definitely going, so it must be the end of the half hour. But guys, I've put in the notes for today's session. Some of these steps are encapsulated, maybe a little more brief from what I've explained them, and certainly more brief from what Robert's expounded upon. Um, but we've made a decision when I got out of the hospital last week that these daily sessions, including the inner alchemy sessions, are going to be available to everybody on the social media on the peak performance blueprint. Uh, they don't have to be a paid member. They should be able to see this information free because we don't know whose life could be saved by just hearing a positive word. So anybody that you want to share this with can go to uh, barefootmillionairemastermind.com/blueprint, click on the blog, and see all of the archives. They can't get into any of the archival training. They can't get into the social media or personal development training. They can't get into. They can't sit on these panels live. That's for members only. But they can certainly watch these rebroadcasts, and so you can feel free. There are now share buttons on that blog. So if you find a session that particularly helped you, share it on Facebook or on Google Plus or Twitter, with our blessing, because this is not, the purpose of the social media or the e-performance blueprint wasn't to make a buck. The purpose was to just pay for the cost of the programming and to get this word out there as a way of giving back. So this is one way we can kind of accelerate that giving back and know that the universe will take care of the covering the cost of the deal itself. So thank you both for being here. Thank you, Robert, so much for expanding upon this, and thank you all for your kind thoughts. I've got about 3 weeks before we go to take care of the other side of the heart on this process, and so I intend to be doing a lot of work between now and then, and each one of you plays a critical part in that because you each are a valued and very important part of my life. So thanks for your patience. Thanks for the chaos this morning, for enduring the chaos this morning of my not knowing whether I was going to make it back from the doctor in time. The doctor thought I was nuts when I said, I have to do a show. And he said, you just got done telling me you were going to take it easy. And I said, I do my show sitting at a desk. I couldn't take it any easier than that unless I was laying down. And he said, well, can you do your show laying down? I said I could, but I'm not going to. Um, but I said, so can we just kind of hustle this up? You're just drawing blood and doing an EKG. That whole process takes 10 minutes, and you don't have to have bedside manner with me today. We can have that when we visit again in 2 weeks. And I got to get back home. And he laughed at me and said, you're the reason type A people have heart attacks. And I was like, yeah, and you're the reason type A people who have heart attacks get well. So I thank you, I love you, and I'll see you later. And I walked out the door. I didn't even wait to be released. I walked out the door, went to the front desk, and he said to see me in 2 weeks. He said, I didn't say anything. I said, you were gonna. and so I have an appointment on the 14th. Because I wanted to get home and do this. I made a commitment to do this, and Fridays are my favorite ones. So, if I was going to miss something, I'll miss Thursday. I didn't want to miss Friday, and so I thank you guys for being patient for that. For those in the United States, have a wonderful Labor Day weekend. Take time to be mindful of and grateful for the fruits of your labors, for the fact that you have a means of laboring to produce in your world, and maybe open yourself to the possibility of finding a greater expression of that creativity, maybe a labor that reflects your love and your passion, that can support you and do all of the things that any other kind of labor does, but to do it in a way that transforms this world. Stay in the moment, be grateful for everything you've got, and always remember the best is yet to come. I love you guys. Namaste.
Mm.
Namaste.
Namaste.